your girl Demi Lovato dropping her first album in since 2017,
Yeah.
Dancing with the Devil.
Seventh album from
Kind
Demi.
of crazy, 7 albums, and she hasn't dropped one in 4 years. It's a lot of production early on.
Yeah, and in this press you can definitely tell she is not the biggest fan of a lot of her earlier work, obviously coming out of her uh, Disney Channel come up the way,
Mm.
contemporaries of hers like Selena Gomez did as well, and the Jonas Brothers, which is I guess that's kind of where she got famous in the first place, right? Camp Rock with the Jonas Brothers, I think. That's where
Mhm.
I first knew of her.
Yeah, that's probably when I was first aware of her, but I didn't really watch a lot of that stuff. Disney Channel wasn't really my thing for whatever reason, but um, yeah, Demi with this new album, with the same name as another TV show she's on right now, or I guess a YouTube docu series of
Right.
the same name. And it, I guess as you listen to this album, I don't know if you've been watching the docu series. I haven't, but what I've heard from it is pretty raw. Demi obviously had the overdose in July 2018, where she was also sexually assaulted, near death experience, has been on a long recovery, kind of making her comeback at the 2020 Grammys. Um, it feels like this is maybe more of an album accompanying the docu series more than anything in a way. But what is your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's pointing out that this is not the first time she's done any kind of documentary about her life and her career. And she pointed out this time around that when she did one, I think 5 years ago, which was talking about past struggles with sobriety, she actually was high on cocaine at the time of that interview. It's like, and I have watched the trailer for Dancing with the Devil, the docu series, and they definitely do a good job of uh, showing you the magnitude that it seems like you know everything was hanging in the balance for Demi Lovato as a person, her life, her well being, and it sounds like everything since that overdose has more been about her just literally piecing her life back together, and that it was a very serious near death experience, and she still like has like poor vision and stuff like that. It's pretty harrowing stuff, and you're obviously thankful that she's made it out and also has put together a full body of work. This is a full length album, and it's very fitting, I guess, for that docu series in that subject matter.
Yeah, it's it touches on a lot, and it's pretty raw. Um, I wouldn't say that there's any songs on here that really allow you to not be sitting with some aspect of Demi's identity or past. And I think she delivers it still in a way that created some really, really great songs. I don't think this album is like a perfect album in any sense. I think there's definitely some songs that on a second listen would probably just skip pretty quick. But I do think there's quite a few songs that stood out to me on here. Um, and kind of starting right from the get go. I mean, you have Anyone, which was like the Grammy showstopper back in 2020, but then you get Dancing with the Devil, one of the lead singles off this, and obviously the title track, as well as the artist starting over. And I think that song, Dancing with the Devil, is just an absolute like ballad banger. And the music video is pretty raw with it too, kind of in line with the rest of the album. How do you feel about Dancing with the Devil, the title track?
Yeah, so definitely early standout, only
Hmm.
track two, but because it's putting the full appeal of Demi Lovato like center stage, which is her just absolutely tremendous vocal strength. And when you combine that with effective lyrics and like engaging stuff, like obviously her situation that's still ongoing, makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's a good track, and again, she's like really strong on a ballad song because of just how strong a singer she is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one's a standout. And then the next time things really stand out is the second title track, The Art of Starting Over, which I
Yeah.
think is probably the most fun song for me on the album.
Well, and that's what was cool about it too, is that it was a concept album, as those two songs suggest, but it's so quick, right? Like intro is track four, and the heaviest stuff is more or less those first three tracks, and then there's kind of a switch up, which I guess makes sense because over the course of this was it 19 track album.
Hmm.
Genre wise, she just bounced around a lot, right? There's the balladry stuff. There's more like upbeat electro pop stuff. There is some more 80s indebted stuff because this is a mainstream pop release. You know, there's stuff all over the place. But I was actually kind of struck with how she was able to convey that early heavy stuff effectively in good songs. Again, anyone Dancing with the Devil is really good tracks, but it also then kind of transition, I think, to more probably more accessible stuff that you'd want to revisit anyway.
Yeah, I agree, and that the art of storytelling, or art of starting over. I'm sorry, um, is just like a smooth, like funky pop song. Um, Kind of followed up, by some tracks down the line that I think stood out to me, such as "Lonely People," which I thought was had a really strong chorus, and more of like that modern, like acoustic, poppy, the song that you hear on the radio. The song with Ariana, I thought stood out. Met them last night, which was like this like woozy, drippy type song, kind of
Oh
nice.
yeah,
I feel like it's like in line with a lot of what Ariana was doing on her last album in a way.
definitely. That
Yeah,
sounds like an Ari song. That
for
shit
sure.
that shit slaps, man.
It was
That's
great.
that's some hot shit right there. And I think I really like the drum production and how Demi's vocals fit with that when she's on her own. But there's also so much harmonization between the two of them. Again, Ariana Grande, another really strong vocalist, so it's a nice collaboration with Demi. And I have to imagine that this was not recorded in person. There was a few moments where I could kind of like hear the skeleton of the mix. I'm like, yeah, I can tell these are combined. But
Mhm.
when you're combining two really good sounding tracks together, the way they do and that kind of harmonization, I was like, I like this. So yeah, I think that's a clear highlight. That's one of my favorite Ari features in quite some time.
What other tracks stood out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, we've mentioned a few of them, right? Dancing with the Devil and Anyone are like really early standouts, and then I really like Met 'Em Last Night. You mentioned Lonely People. I think Melon Cake's pretty solid. Um, I actually thought My Girlfriends Are My Boyfriend, the Saweetie collab, surprised how well those two fit together.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, Saweetie, another person who's been in the news lately. Um, how'd you feel about that Mad World cover, which is the second to last track?
Well, so it's interesting, right? The last what four tracks on the album seem to be kind of going for some sort of like closure to this uh I don't know, introspective type album. Throughout the album, she's talking about her sexuality, identifying as pansexual. There's rumors that Noah Cyrus, who's on the track Easy with her, that
Hmm.
they're in a relationship now. Um, you know, California Sober is getting a lot of buzz because people in the world of sobriety and how to go about that are not really sure if they agree with the way that she's going
Hmm.
about her sobriety, which is basically
Right.
taking drugs and alcohol in moderation as she feels like
Yeah.
it's safe.
Smoking weed and drinking, basically.
Yeah. Um, so you get to like the Mad World, Butterfly, Good Place, Following California Sober, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm in this. Life is hard. I've been through a lot, but like I'm ending up in this nice place. I just kind of found like the Donnie Darko Mad World cover is like kind of like too on the nose almost, given
Yeah.
everything she's been through. I just kind of like we heard Lana last week doing another cover, and we talked
Yeah.
about like it was fine, and I found this to be like kind of fine, but like also like too obvious almost. What about you?
Yeah. Definitely intentional. Definitely intentional. But it did make my ears perk up. It's a long listen, so
Great
to
song.
to re-grab attention towards the end of a track list, I think counts for something.
That's true.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, thinking like I don't have a whole lot of experience with the early Demi records as a whole. I know some of those early hits, of course. I really like Heart Attack, and the last album, "Tell Me You Love Me," which is another type ballad song, had that in my top 10, 2017.
Mm,
Actually, really like that track a lot, and that's actually one of my favorite examples of a live performance kind of transcending the studio version. There's a really nice video on her YouTube channel. But this, I mean, again, limited experience, but I have to imagine this is her most ambitious album ever because she's tackling a lot of different genres, but also has a really clearly focused uh, lyrical subject matter, but also coming out in a lot of different ways, right? And you get some good guest spots. So I have to imagine this is her gonna please a lot of her fans, which of course probably I feel like most people don't have the highest bar right now. They just want to see Demi be okay and be successful. You know,
She's she's been on basically vocal rest since 2018. We are really only having a handful of performances, maybe even less than that before COVID hit. So her vocals are in a great place. She's sounding crisp and clear on this, and I think there's about half the tracks that are at least good to great. So I don't see how anyone can look at this and see anything less than a major win for Demi. It's good to have her back, honestly.
definitely, definitely, she sings good.
She definitely does, and check out some of the songs that she sings good off her most recent album, Dancing with the Devil, The Art of Starting Over, on our Nostalgia Best of 2021 Spotify playlist, which will be in our show notes.